Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. For today's video, I've been thinking a lot about the fact that we're in the back half of 2024 and I wanted to reflect on my most anticipated books coming out this year. To that end, I'm dividing this video into essentially two parts. The first half of this video, I'll be showcasing the books that have already come out this year in 2024 that I've purchased to showcase that I've just really loved, some of my top waited for books. And the back half, I'll just take a look at some that are coming out the remainder of the year that I really have my eye on. Before we go ahead and start though, I do want to shout out the channel's sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up any of these books or some of these pre-orders I'm going to be talking about, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link for it in this video's description, and if you see anything there you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to receive $2 off of your order. Or TCBRShipittogether, one word, to save 5% off your entire order of 4 books or more, when you ship them together, of course. Please note if you use my affiliate link or codes to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support the channel. Thank you for considering. Now let's get started. First up on my list today, The Fantastic Four by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo Omnibus reprint. This is a book I have been waiting to get in the personal collection for some time now. I've spoken about it a couple times on the channel, but ever since I read through Jonathan Hickman's run on Fantastic Four, it reignited my passion for this beloved Marvel franchise. Since then, I've been buying up omnibuses and collections and just reading all I can to just, well, immerse myself in this world. And I know a big glaring blind spot in my reading was most of this Mark Waid Mike Wieringo run. I had read a few issues in paperback format, some of the trade paperbacks. I even reviewed the first one, Imaginauts, on the channel once upon a time, but I never had the entire run collected, even in paperback, and I always wanted to check this out. I've been a fan of Mark Waid for a while. Particularly, I really like his run on Daredevil. I've enjoyed what I've read of his Captain America stuff, some of his indie work, things like that. The Flash, of course. But anyway, this was one, like I said, I haven't finished all the way through, and I knew when I heard this was being solicited that this would absolutely be a pre-order for me. And honestly, this was one of my big 2 books for this year. I knew I wanted to get more than any other collections coming out. This and Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender, which Omnibus is also getting reprinted pretty soon. But yeah, this was a pre-order for me. I'm so happy I finally picked it up. I am making my way through at the time of this recording. And for those wondering, I'm in the middle of a particularly fascinating and grim Doctor Doom-based storyline. And that's all I'll say about that for now. But this is a very fun read. I've heard a lot of people say this is their favorite run on Fantastic Four. I think that that's going to be a tough sell for me just because I'm such a huge fan of Hickman and what I've read of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's run. But I'm certainly open to seeing what this holds. The art here from the incredible Mike Wieringo is also a selling point for some people. I think it is vivid and absolutely gorgeous, but maybe a little more cartoony or animated than my personal taste preference. That's not to say I'm not enjoying this reading experience. Definitely am. Hope to review this once I complete it. Next up today, we have The Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer Omnibus Volume 2. That's right, Volume 2 has been released. This rounds out the back half of his run on the title. And this is sandwiched, of course, between The Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer Omnibus Volume 1 and the Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus, both of which I own and I have started. But this was the missing piece here. I do hope to read this once I finish the Volume 1. I know you might be thinking, you already bought the Volume 2? You haven't even finished Volume 1. Yes, I know, but there is part of me with that fear of missing out or FOMO that once I know I'm enjoying a run or I know I'm going to enjoy it, I want to make sure I have all of it collected even if I'm not able to finish it, just because I don't want these books to sell out. And with this variant cover, I believe by Patrick Gleason, I knew I had to pick it up. Really excited to have this in the collection. It looks like the artists change a bit through this volume, maybe even more than the Volume 1, but so far just flipping through, it looks like another solid collection. I know this This run I've heard has a lot of mixed reviews, but I am a big Nick Spencer and Spider-Man fan, so I'm sure I'm going to probably enjoy this more than the average. I know I can speak to what I've read of the Volume 1 Omnibus, and so far so good. It's vibrant, it's fun, there's a lot of high-flying Spider-Man hijinks that I just adore. But yeah, I'm really excited to round out more of my modern Spider-Man Omnibus collection. I feel like I have a lot of like older work from like the Silver Age, kind of Bronze Age, and like 90s kind of comics. But it's really fun to go into deeper and more modern Spider-Man storytelling. I know a lot of people feel like Spider-Man's quality has dropped off a lot since like JMS, for example. But I've enjoyed what I've dabbled with beyond that. You know, I've enjoyed what I've read from Dan Slott's. I know I've enjoyed what I've read from Nick Spencer's here, and even that Beyond Omnibus has been a ton of fun. But anyway, this was another one on my list that was really anticipated to complete that set, and I'm really excited I picked this one up as well. Let me know if you've read Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer. I'm always down to get some more feedback, especially on books I'm thinking about finishing up or I'm still reading through. I'd love to get some opinions. And hey, while I have your attention, if you're enjoying this video and you've yet to subscribe to the channel, I would just like to invite you to do so. I'm always doing videos of this kind, or comic book reviews, hauls, unboxings, different things like that. Anyway, thank you for considering. Now on with the show. Next up, the only paperback on this list, Predator vs. Wolverine by Benjamin Percy. This is one I was really excited to check out. I remember when this was first announced, and as the single issues were coming out, I was really eager to see what it was all about. I am a fan of the Predator film franchise, at least what I've seen of it. I think I've missed a movie or two, but certainly I'm familiar with Predator, and Wolverine is one of my favorite comic book characters, and I think this clash just makes a whole lot of sense. And when it's written by one of the ongoing Wolverine writers, Benjamin Percy, or I think actually his run just wrapped up. But anyway, I love what he's been doing with Wolverine for the last little bit. Heard about this, and I knew this was one I wanted to check out. I had an opportunity to pick up this Barnes & Noble exclusive cover, which is why it might look different from other people's paperbacks. But I read and reviewed this recently, came out, was so excited to finally give it a read. I actually got this with a birthday gift card from my brother, sister-in-law, and nephew, so thanks again for that. But this is really fun. It is a bit violent, a bit gory, things like that. So that's something to be aware of for people that maybe don't like that kind of violence. But if you can tolerate that and you like these characters, this is definitely a fun read. The storytelling employs a very good frame narrative, at least in my mind. We get to jump around at different periods in Wolverine's history through the use of flashbacks, and everything serves the overall vision and aim of this storyline in a way that I thought was just brilliant. I thought that Percy did a really good job balancing the franchises, the lore, the world building that we get from both, and just kind of melding them together in a way that just seems so seamless. I think it's really wonderful. The art we have from Ken Lashley, amongst others, is beautiful. One of the things I liked is that each flashback had kind of a different artist, and then that main kind of present day outer frame was all Ken Lashley. Beautiful art, really fun story, doesn't overstay its welcome, only a couple issues long, but loved it, and honestly would read sequel after sequel should they ever go that route. Okay, back to Omnibus editions. Daredevil by Frank Miller, the Omnibus Companion, or Companion Omnibus. I always get that mixed around. Anyway, this was a reprint, and I could not wait to add this to the collection. Longer time viewers of the channel might know Daredevil is my favorite comic book character, my favorite superhero. Love, love, love Daredevil. And Frank Miller is considered a quintessential cornerstone, possibly the best Daredevil run of all time. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's certainly amongst my favorite, and he deserves so much credit to shaping this modern hero in these modern ways. Love what he added to the mythos. We got a reprint of his proper run with Klaus Janson on the title, I think last year, but this was announced for this year, and I couldn't wait. This collects some of the remainder material he's done for Daredevil. I think there's a couple Spider-Man Daredevil issues that he collaborated on, along with one of my personal favorite Daredevil stories, Daredevil the Man Without Fear, which is a great origin retelling, reimagining with John Romita Jr. Really, really good stuff there. And then, of course, Daredevil Born Again, which is one of the single most prolific Daredevil storylines. I won't go into any spoilers here, but a terrific story, certainly. We also have, I think, Daredevil, is it Love and War? I'm not really sure. We also have a graphic novel with Frank Miller with art by Bill Sienkiewicz. I think it's Love and War. I'm not really sure. Anyway, that's really the contents of this Daredevil omnibus. It's really kind of the leftover Daredevil material outside of that proper run that's collected in the other omnibus. But for me, some of my favorite Frank Miller Daredevil stories are actually in this omnibus, so I couldn't wait to get these stories in an oversized hardcover edition. Before this was reprinted, I did have some paperbacks that collected most of this that I cherished and loved for many, many years. But really happy to have it in, like I said, this prestige oversized hardcover edition. This is a beautiful omnibus, faithfully representing these stories, reprinting them. Love it, love it. I've really enjoyed kind of making my way through this and revisiting some of these classics and, yeah, beloved stories. Next up, we have Captain America by Nick Spencer Omnibus Volume 2. Yes, this was a much anticipated collection for me, one I wanted to pre-order and check out. I'm so happy to finally have my copy. Very similar to the story of The Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer, this is a run that I began, I think, last year. Unlike The Amazing Spider-Man, I actually finished this first omnibus pretty promptly, and I really enjoyed it, and I was just waiting to round out the run. So this collects the back half of the Nick Spencer run on Captain America, along with the main event for Secret Empire. Really can't wait to check it out. I will admit I haven't actually gone into this book yet. I've been reading other things, but I'm very excited to circle back and get to it. I know I did read the Ta-Nehisi Coates run on Captain America, which comes after this Nick Spencer run, so this was another one that kind of fills a hole in my collection right in the middle, and that makes me extremely happy. We get a lot of Captain America and Sam Wilson in this, or Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson. They both function as Captain America, but really excited to see these characters, really excited to see the culmination and everything Spencer's building up to. If you've read all of Nick Spencer's Captain America run, definitely let me know in the comments. What do you think of the back half? Have you read Secret Empire? Did you enjoy it? I've heard mixed reviews on this run overall. I think that I have heard a little bit more positive than negative for it. I know I certainly enjoyed the volume 1, so I'm hoping for a good conclusion here. But I am a Nick Spencer fan, so really excited to get these omnibuses in the collection, especially finishing these bigger runs, finishing out these secondary volumes. Definitely a huge goal as a collector, and I think that that's honestly why a lot of these volumes for me were heavily anticipated. Love that feeling of getting to finish a run, finish that collection, and really happy Marvel was churning these things out. This was definitely one I was looking out for. Since Brubaker, I've become more of a modern Captain America fan, so I've really enjoyed just kind of bouncing around. I know I still have to finish the Rick Remender run, so I'm a bit all over the place, but yeah, love everything I'm reading so far. Okay, next up is a book I really looked forward to once I realized it was coming out, but it did sneak up on me a little bit. That is The Secret Six Omnibus by Gail Simone over at DC Comics. This, to me, is one of the most beautifully put together DC omnibuses I've seen in some time. That dust jacket is just incredible. The spine design, which I don't think I showed here, you can find it in my full review of this book if you'd like to see it. It's just amazing. Love it. For those that don't know, this is one of your kind of rogue, anti-hero, almost villain-based team books, really similar to something like Suicide Squad in many ways, which is maybe a better known property. But yeah, this is the Secret Six. I first heard about this team in the pages of the Infinite Crisis Omnibus. There's a miniseries called Villains United that introduces us to the team, and that miniseries is actually reproduced here at the beginning of this omnibus. And wow, yeah, this one is just a real treat. I think that the team is really eclectic, odd, and interesting. There's a lot of real humor here, some jokes that just actually made me laugh out loud reading it. We have a couple different artists attached to this book, and all of them I think are really spectacular. The styles might differ a little bit, but there's a level of visual continuity here that I never felt pulled out of my reading experience as we transition from artist to artist. This book includes a mini-series, a crossover story arc with Birds of Prey, which was also by Gail Simone, along with the 6-issue Volume 2 series of Secret Six, and the first 16 issues of the Volume 3 for Secret Six. So this is is all those early appearances for this team. Really dig it. Some have noted that there is maybe a mapping hiccup in this book where the Birds of Prey issues are found before the 6 issues of the volume 2. I think that is chronologically a bit out of order, but you can easily flip them as you read if you would like. There's a great table of contents here. But yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed this experience. A great book. Definitely looking for an announcement from DC for volume 2. Fingers crossed. But this was one I was anticipating as well. I'm not as big of a DC Omnibus collector, at least yet. I have a few. So when I find one like this that I've been waiting for, it's just a real treat. I definitely had fun with this one. Okay, and the last of my 2024 most anticipated comics that I've picked up thus far, I'm going to be looking at Thor by Walter Simonson, Omnibus. This is another reprint from Marvel Comics. You might have noticed I really was looking forward to a lot of reprints. Yes, I got a couple first run printings, but I've really loved being able to get these runs while they're in print. I'm so thankful for Marvel and to an extent DC for doing reprints of omnibuses. Think it's really great. Anyway, though, talking about Thor by Walter Simonson. This is one of the most prolific eras of Thor. This is another one that I had a couple paperbacks for back in the day. I read the very beginnings of this run and found myself enjoying it, but never was able to read all of it. I wasn't able to get all the collections, and I never got this omnibus. So when I heard they were reprinting, I wanted to check it out. You know, Thor was never a character I delved into very deeply, and then I read the run by Matt Fraction. I reviewed that omnibus on my channel here, and it just got me thinking that this is a fun character, and I started to read a little bit more. I've dabbled with Jason Aaron's Thor, which I've also really liked. I've liked Thor as he crosses over with the Avengers or in big event books, but I'm trying to read a little bit more of solo Thor, and I know that this is such a beloved run, and honestly, I'm really enjoying the ride so far. I should note as well for collectors out there, this does have the modernized coloring that they did with this Simonson run. I believe this is the preferred version by the writer, Walter Simonson, on how to experience this run, if I'm remembering that correctly. But these are not the original colors that were presented when these single issues came out. I know a lot of collectors out there and comic book fans don't really like when this happens. I totally understand that. I personally really like the coloring job. It is a really fascinating look at how they were able to kind of punch up some of the colors to look a bit more modern. And punch up might not even be the best word, because I know there's some classic comic book fans that preferred it kind of unmessed with or altered. Totally respect both sides. I personally like this recoloring. I think that this was how it was colored in the last printing of this omnibus, so nothing new, but just something I wanted to bring up for people that maybe aren't aware or hope to collect it and are curious about that. Really, I think it adds a nice touch to this omnibus, and I think the stories, like I said, they just pop a little more. I feel a little bit more timeless, and yeah, I'm liking it so far. Okay, for the remaining minutes of this video, I do want to transition and now talk about books that I am heavily awaiting in the rest of 2024 that at the time of the recording have not come out yet. This is by no means an exhaustive list because there are just so many books I hope to get. I know I'm not going to be able to get everything budget-wise, but these are some that are at the top of my list to look out for that I hope to pick up. First and foremost, I mentioned it earlier in this video, but The Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender. This to me was, along with Fantastic Four by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo, are the most headliner books for 2024 for me that I've been looking for and waiting to read. Uncanny X-Force, I've heard for so long, is one of the best modern Marvel Comics runs out there. I am kind of a fan of Rick Remender of what I've read so far from different series. I'm not a huge reader of Remender yet, but I'm looking for good recommendations, and I've heard for his mainstream big two, this is maybe his best work, question mark. But it has so many characters I like. I know Wolverine, Deadpool, Phantom X, Psylocke, I think Archangel. Anyway, just some great characters here. This is like the Black Ops Special Forces X-Men team. At any rate, I cannot wait to check this book out. I've had this pre-ordered from Organic Price Books for some time, and I cannot wait for it to come out. Another that's very high on the list for me, Daredevil by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev, Omnibus Volume 1. This is Volume 1 of a 2-volume set. I think Volume 2 is solicited for reprint, I think the beginning of 2025, question mark. But anyway, this is my favorite run on Daredevil I've had the pleasure of reading. I've had the paperbacks for some time, but I cannot wait for a chance at the Omnibus edition. This is another one I've gone ahead and pre-ordered because I just can't wait. Again, brilliant Daredevil run, dark, gritty, crime noir kind of feel to it. definitely recommend. Next up, I want to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 4 from Marvel Comics. This, as you can imagine, continues our chronological journey through Brian Michael Bendis's and Mark Bagley's Ultimate Spider-Man. This is a run I have dearly loved for some time now, like I'm sure so many of you. I used to have this whole run in paperback. I sold it once upon a time when I thought I was getting out of comic books, and since I've returned to comic books, I've yet to collect this series in full again, but luckily Marvel has seen fit to collect this series in omnibus format, so I've tried the best I can to keep up with these releases. I did finally get the Volume 3 of Ultimate Spider-Man, so hopefully I can keep this going and get Volume 4 when it's released. Next up, another Spider-Man omnibus I'm really hoping to pick up. This is Spider-Man by JMS Omnibus Volume 2. This is the back half of his legendary run. This is a run I've also really enjoyed, haven't read in years. Used to have the Ultimate Collection paperbacks, or at least most of them, and then I was able to get the Volume 1 omnibus when it was reprinted maybe a year or two ago. Anyway, I was hoping that they would solicit this Volume 2 reprint. I'm elated that they have, and I hope to pick this up and read it again. Really excited for this one. This is another example of finishing out a run in collected editions. Really eager to do that. Next up, yet another Spider-Man omnibus. This is Spider-Man Brand New Day Omnibus Volume 1. This is the beginning of the Dan Slott era for The Amazing Spider-Man after JMS's tenure on the title. Now, I have read parts of Dan Slott's run throughout the years. I've read the early bits of Brand New Day, but there are large portions of this run I have yet to get to, and I'm hoping we get all of it in omnibus format. I know we have Superior Spider-Man that got released. That's been really fun. I know this era of Spider-Man has been controversial for a lot of people, but from what I've read so far, I am a fan. I do like Spider-Man. I really enjoyed Dan Slott, and so far what I've read of this run I've enjoyed, but this omnibus actually has some issues I've never read, so I am hoping to pick this up should the budget align. Next on this list, and I promise it's the last Spider-Man omnibus I'm going to be talking about, or at least showcasing, Spider-Man The Complete Black Costume Saga Omnibus. This, to me, is one of the most exciting announcements Marvel's done this year. They released this era in two really big paperbacks once upon a time. They went out of print and got very pricey. I was not able to pick them up, and now I'm happy I didn't, because they're rolling a lot of that into this omnibus, and I can't wait to finally read most of the issues here. I've read a couple during this period where Peter Parker has that symbiote suit on him, but there's a large part here that I've never read, so I cannot wait for this book to come out. I should say the Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Eric Larson omnibus reprint is also of interest to me, along with the David Michelinie and Mark Bagley omnibus volume 1, but those are kind of lesser priority for me, so I'm not going to fully showcase them on the video. But yeah, great year to be a Spider-Man fan. Save that money. A lot of great Spidey omnibuses this year. And last but not least, from Image Comics, Firepower, the Deluxe Edition Book 2 from Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney, rounding out the remainder of this independent comic book series. This is a martial arts-based book. Love the Volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out. Just can't wait. Wanted to talk about it. Okay, and that's going to round out my list of the most anticipated comic book collected editions for 2024. These are both books that have already come out this year and are yet to come out that I am just looking at, tracking, picking up, interested in. Again, I mentioned it, but this is by no means an exhaustive list. There are so many other ones that have caught my eye and been on my radar, but budget is what budget is. I know I can't afford everything, and I'm not even sure if I can get everything on this list, but this is what I'm aiming to really try to angle at and try to get by end of year, if I'm able to save up the money. Great year for omnibuses, as you can clearly see by my video, but I would love to know in the comments, what are some of your most anticipated comic book pickups that are being released this year, whether they've already come out in 2024 or they've yet to come out in these next upcoming months. Would love to hear that in the comments below. If you can, let's get some discussion going. Let's get some recommendations going. I would love the comment section to look just like a treasure trove of great comics that are coming out or have come out this year. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, comment, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks everyone. Have a good one.